Hi, I'm Elaine and welcome to my kitchen. Well, those of you who have seen my video about my cruise, that I know that I just got back from a cruise with my daughters not too long ago, and we had a great time. But one thing that we did was we went to a sidewalk cafe and they served shrimp and grits, and I don't care for grits, but these were just phenomenal. This was a great recipe. So I decided I would do my best to try and copy that recipe, and so I managed to do that. So what I'm going to do is move you over to the stove and we're going to get started. Okay, so hang on. Okay, I'm at my stove and we are getting ready to start the grits. So the grits that I am using are stone ground corn grits. They are not hominy grits, which I never cared for hominy, and which was the reason that I never cared for grits, was because everybody that I knew fixed hominy grits, and I just did not like the taste of hominy. But these are really good. These actually taste more like corn, and these are stone ground grits and yellow corn grits. So we're going to go ahead and get these started. So let me turn you down so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. I'll move this over a minute just so you can see. Okay. So I have my my saucepan, and in my saucepan I'm going to add 1 1.5 cups of whole milk. And I'm going to be listing these ingredients below for you in the description. Okay, and we're going to use 1.5 cups of chicken broth. And to that, I'm going to add about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to use my hand. I'm not really going to measure this out too much, but there it is. That was just about 1/4 teaspoon. Okay, and I'm going to move this to my other burner because I'm going to want to use this burner for something different, so which I'll tell you about in a moment. Okay, now while I'm waiting for that to come to a boil, let me just get back in here. Oopsie, there we go. And the thing that made those grits down at that cafe different was they had, they had your shrimp and they had your grits, but they also had something called corn and andouille sausage maque choux. And that is what we're going to do, is we're going to make maque choux. So while I'm waiting for this to come to a boil, I'll tell you a little bit about the maque choux. It is kind of a cross between a Creole and a Native American Indian influence, and it's basically just fresh vegetables that are braised, and then they're cooked in you make a little bit of a sauce, and you have your seasonings, your Creole seasoning, and whatever else you want to season it with. And you can make it as spicy or as mild as you want. Again, most of you know we prefer things along the milder side. But it's sort of like a succotash, but then, like I said, it's in a creamy sauce, and it's going to go on top of the grits, the shrimp and the grits, and it is very, very delicious. So we will start that in a moment. Okay, and so when my milk and my chicken stock comes to a boil, I'm going to add 3/4 cup of those grits. And we want to add them very, very slowly and keep stirring until we get them stirred good. And my dog is barking. So when this comes to a boil, I'll be back. Okay, my chicken broth and my milk has come to a boil. So I'm going to very slowly stir in these grits. I don't want to dump them in all at once because you don't want these to be lumpy. You want these to be very smooth and creamy. So we're going to keep stirring this. And I kind of just slowly add that in. Alright. And now I'm just going to kind of stir this until it comes back to the boil. All right, and we're going to turn our heat way down on this. And I'm going to keep stirring this until the heat comes down, because again, I don't want any lumps or anything in this. I want it to be very smooth and creamy. And that's what that milk is going to do. So I'm going to keep stirring these until that it's beginning to cool down a little bit, which is what I want. Okay, there we have it. It's coming pretty good. Okay, I'm even going to turn my heat down just a little more, because I kind of just barely want these to simmer while I make the maque choux. Maque choux is spelled Maque-Choux, and it is pronounced Maque Choux. I did find that out in my research when I was trying to come up with what it was that was so different about that cafe's shrimp and grits that I thought made those so good. All right, that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to cover these now. And okay, so we are going to get ready here to start the maque choux, and as soon as I get that set up on the other burner, I will be right back with you. Okay, my bacon grease has gotten very, very hot. This is 1 tablespoon of bacon grease. And now to that, I am going to add my andouille sausage. That's about 6 ounces, and you can see it's chopped fairly small pieces. And I have 1 seeded and chopped red tomato, and I have 1 minced onion. And I am just going to cook these together. Just like that. Okay, and I'm going to cook those until those vegetables start to soften up. And also, let's see, I think I'm going to add about a half a teaspoon of minced garlic to that. I've got to put that in there, so we're going to go ahead and add that right now. So it's about a half a teaspoon of minced garlic. You can add more if you like, but I think for my taste that's plenty, and my husband's taste. But it already is beginning to smell very, very good. So we want to brown that sausage, and we want to get these vegetables good and soft. And what maque choux is a mixture of corn and the tomatoes and the onions and the peppers. Now this is red bell pepper, but you could certainly use green peppers if you'd rather do that. You can use any kinds you want. Okay, we just prefer the red ones because they're a little bit milder than the green ones. And I'm only using about 6 ounces of andouille sausage. I'm going to come over here and stir my grits. Now I'm going to turn that up a little so you can see. Alright, stir these grits around a little bit. You don't want to... They are starting to come pretty good. See how creamy they look already? They still have a while to cook, so we're going to just let them keep going. I just wanted to give them a quick stir real quick. Alright, and now we're going to keep browning this sausage. Make sure this smells so good. But the andouille sausage, I'm only, like I say, only using someplace maybe, I don't know, between 4 and 6 ounces roughly. Now, if you like yours spicier, you can certainly add more sausage than I added. You could add up to maybe 8 ounces or so. And you could also cut it in larger pieces than I have it. And you can get, it would be a little more spicy tasting that way for you. Okay. This is coming Okay, when this cooks a little more and those vegetables start to soften up, I will be back with you. Okay, my sausage is browned really good and my vegetables are nice and soft. The onions are translucent. So now we're going to add our diced tomato. So we've added our peppers. This is our peppers, onions, and andouille sausage. And now we're adding the tomatoes. And also, we're going to add our spices. So what I have here is I have 3/4 of a tablespoon of Creole seasoning. Now, if you want more, you can certainly add it. This keeps ours kind of on the milder side, but if you wanted your spicier, you could add up to a tablespoon and it would be fine. Okay, and this is 1/2 a teaspoon of salt, 1/2 a teaspoon of black pepper, and 1 teaspoon of sugar. And I'm just going to pour that right in. And I have reduced my heat down to about 5. And I'm just going to let this cook until these tomatoes get done and soften up, and then I will be back to show you what to do next. Okay, I am back, and you can see my tomatoes have already started to cook down, and that's what I was looking for. They're getting kind of soft and a little bit mushy, and that's exactly what I was looking for with these tomatoes. And so at this point, I'm ready to add 1 tablespoon of flour. And we're going to mix that in and let this cook just a little bit longer. So we have all those wonderful spices in here. And now we have our flour, which is going to make our sauce thickened up. Okay, and we're just going to cook this about 5 more minutes or so. And so while that's cooking, let me come over here and see how my grits are doing. They are looking really good. Let me show you. Okay, so you can see those are looking really good. Nice and creamy. That's what I want. So I'm going to let those cook in there. Okay, and that is looking really good. I'm just going to let that cook a little bit more because I want to make sure that that flour is cooked. One thing that I can't stand is having any kind of sauce that has a raw flour or has a pasty texture because they didn't cook their flour enough. So make sure that this is cooked enough. So we want to let this go maybe a couple more minutes, and so when I do, I'll be right back with you. Okay, this has been cooking just about 5 minutes. So now, at this point, I am going to add, this is 2 cans of whole kernel corn. Now, technically we should be using fresh corn with about 4 or 5 ears of corn where the corn has been cut off the cob and the milk has actually been scraped out of it. But this is January, and with it being January, we don't have that fresh corn. So I have the can, and it will work. It'll work just fine. Okay, and now to that, I'm going to add about 1/2 cup. I'm going to start with a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. And I believe that is going to need some more. So what we do is just kind of add this at 1/4 cup intervals. But I'm just going to kind of eyeball it till it gets where I want it to be. We are getting there. I still think it might need a little bit more because we want this to be a little bit more of a sauce because it's going over our shrimp and grits. So let me add just a little more. Very good. That looks pretty good right there. So I added maybe I don't know, maybe a cup of heavy cream, roughly. And I think I'm going to add just a tea-tad, maybe another tablespoon. All right. Okay, and I'm going to turn my heat back up on this a little bit until I can get it to come to a boil. Let me get rid of some of this stuff while I'm at it. And when it comes to a boil, we're going to reduce the heat down to a simmer. We're going to cover it, and we're going to let it simmer for about 15 minutes or so, just stirring it occasionally. And in the meantime, I'll be watching that thickness of that sauce, and if that starts to thicken up too much, you can always add just a little more cream to it to where you get it to where you want it. Okay, so when this is done, I will be back and show you how we're going to do the shrimp. Okay, our maque choux is done, and now I am ready to start the shrimp. So what I have in my pan is a little bit more bacon grease. Oh, I don't know, it was maybe a little less than a tablespoon. And I'm going to put in the shrimp. Now these are jumbo Gulf shrimp, and they have been deveined. And I removed the tail and we peeled them really good. And I'm just going to start these browning. Just a few more here. I might as well go ahead and put those in too. Okay. And let's just move those aside a little bit. Okay, and now to that, I'm going to add just a little bit more garlic. Start kind of letting these brown and cook. And the last thing that I'm going to do on these is I'm going to add some Cajun spice to them. And again, you can add as little or as much as you want and make these just as spicy as you like. And I'm doing this on a fairly high heat because I do want these to brown. And it won't take the shrimp very long to get done. And like I say, our maque choux is done and the grits are done. I'm just kind of keeping them covered and letting them sit here on a very, very low heat, mainly just to keep warm while I do everything else. Okay, and that shrimp smells very, very good. Okay, so I'm going to let this start browning, and when I get this shrimp browned really good on both sides, I will be back with you and show you how we're going to plate this up. Okay, our shrimp and grits and our maque choux is all done, so I am going to show you now how I'm going to plate this up. So what I'm going to do is take some of my maque choux, oops, I dropped a little bit there, and I'm just going to spread that around on the plate. Take a little more on this side. It's a plate for me and for my husband. Okay, I'm going to put a little more here. Okay, move that out of the way. Now I'm going to take the grits, and you can see how nice these grits came out. Really, really good and creamy. So I'm going to take some of the grits and I'm going to put in the center of the maque choux. Just like that. I'm going to get my husband a little more because he'll want a little more than I can eat. So give him just a little bit more. I'll give him another spoonful. There we go. Okay. Now, I'm going to take the grits. Let me get my tongs. think I accidentally put the ones I had in the sink. Okay, and we're just going to take a few of these shrimp and lay on top of the grits now. And you can see how nice and brown those shrimp came out. Okay, and there we go. And I have plenty left there. Okay, I give him one more. Uh-oh, jailbreak. There we go. All right, and now one last thing I'm going to do is take some more Maque Choux and put over the grits. And there we have it. I'm going to put some on mine. Okay, and there we have shrimp and grits and sausage and corn Maque Choux. All right, and we are going to eat, and whoops, let me turn that back a little bit, turn you up here. Okay, now this is not exactly like the recipe we had down at that sidewalk cafe, but it is very, very close, and it's very good. So if you try this recipe, I hope you enjoy it. And again, I'm going to be listing those ingredients below so you can make this yourself. Okay, well, you all have a wonderful night, and I hope that you've had a wonderful New Year and Christmas, and had a good time with family and friends and celebrating. So Happy New Year to you all. And thank you so much for watching my channel and watching my videos. I really appreciate each one of you, more than I can say. So y'all have a great night, and I will see you next time.